So, next up, Best Story. Previous winners in Best Story: Wolfenstein II: The New Colossus in 2017. 2018 was Red Dead Redemption 2: Electric Boogaloo. 2019, a deserving winner in Control. This year we have a strong lineup, as always, I would say. We have Ord, The Last of Us Part 2, Paradise Killer, Marvel's Avengers, Paper Mario: The Origami King, Spiritfairer, Hades, The Last Campfire, If Found, and Tell Me Why. And to start off this round, I am the wheel of fate, shall we say, is picking Jack.
Oh boy. Whoa. See, there's some stuff in here I really don't know anything about, and I think that makes it hard. I will want to say that I want to give Miles Morales an honorary mention. I just cut a massive promo on that, so I'm not going to say much more than that. But yeah, there's a couple of games on here that I don't really know too much about. Does somebody want to give me the lowdown on, because it is the sort of game that it is, I'm very surprised that it has such an impactful story, but Hades?
You gotta understand. See, this is the thing, right? So, roguelites in general, when they do something that is like unique or unexpected or adds this kind of whole new kind of dimension to a roguelite, 9 times out of 10, or pretty much all of the time, it's a mechanical thing. It's a gameplay aspect. It's never a story aspect. And if any motherfucker is going to come along and do it very well, it is going to be Supergiant. Like the way they implement story and narrative into this roguelite, and the way that they make it all kind of tie together, and how they make it logically work with why you keep going back and doing the same thing over and over again, is so smart. And all of these characters and like their personalities, and the story of Zagreus, and his motivations, and I don't know, I want to see like if Barry has anything more kind of, because I don't want to go too much into the details, because we could be here for a while with a lot of the games we have on this list. But it's so smartly tied together, and because basically you defeat Hades because you're trying to get to your mother, who kind of exists in the outworld, the overworld. And the problem is that when Zagreus gets past Hades and gets out of that version of hell, he can't survive that long before he's basically dragged back down again. So he only ends up having like a couple of minutes with his mother to discuss why she left, her reasoning for it, her relationship with Hades. And so the reason you go back, like from a gameplay aspect, is each time you go back, you uncover a little bit more of that relationship between, Zagreus and his mother and Hades.
That's real smart.
It's, oh my god, it's so fucking well done.
That's real smart. I like that a lot.
And so...
And the way they weave the different storytelling elements into the roguelike elements is really impressive too.
Yeah. I'm not going to cut too much more of a promo, but I definitely know I have a couple of things that I would take off before Hades, so I'm not ready for it to go at number 10.
Yeah, that's cool. Dave, do you want to cut a promo on Ord? Should that stick around here?
I think I just wanted to get it mentioned in here because I think it may not be the most elaborate or mind-bending story of the year, and it's not my number one. But I think what Ord does, and I talked about it on the podcast, so I won't get back into the mechanics of how it's the 3-word system to tell a text-based adventure story. But what I love about it that makes it really good Supreme storytelling is that it just pares everything down to that simple 3-word system, that it can delight and entertain and frustrate by the whole interface and the whole storytelling mechanic being 3 words at a time. I just think it is narrative simplicity at its best, and is the kind of game you'd want to be making people play in, like, when they're studying how to make video games. As a, like, this is how you craft narrative. Build all your bells and whistles on after that, but you need to boil it down to something simple, and this is a perfect way of doing that. So yeah, I think I'm the only one that's played this game, but I'm fine letting it go.
Cool. Yeah. So order them, please.
Coward.
Coward.
Sorry.
I think you'll find.
Yeah, coward. I'm up next. I'll take off another one of my own here, and it's because I just wanted it mentioned because I think it's the best thing about this game is the single player mode. I think they really took some time to actually craft in a lot of comic book history and lore and stuff that fans of Marvel characters will really like to see, but it almost compensates for kind of how short it is and how repetitive the rest of the game is. So Marvel's Avengers, really well written, too little of it, and outweighed by just blandness elsewhere in the game.
Fair. I love Kamala Khan, so at some stage I do want to finish this story, but not until there's a deep discount on this game.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be in love just with the start of it, which is Kamala Khan as just a fan of superheroes coming to Avengers Day on the helicarrier, and all the little fairground stuff she comes up to, and like, you'll be fucking loving that shit alone.
That just kind of harkens back to like tiny Peter Parker at the Iron Man Expo in Iron Man 2. I love it.
Yeah, it's very that, and I just love the idea that you would like, of all the Marvel villains that you could have cashed in on, that they go hard into making MODOK the big bad in this.
Oh dear, strange. Maybe it's because there was loads of additional villains planned in their games as a live service, and now no one's going to play it.
Mark.
I will keep with the theme of taking something of my own off. The Last Campfire, I wouldn't say it really is like great in terms of having a story, but it does do a good thing about trying to present hope to these characters that have really just kind of lost all sense of hope. But it's nothing that's particularly deep or compelling. And also because I really had nowhere else where I could mention this game this year, and I felt like this may have been the best category. So, you know, it has just at least a little bit to it in terms of kind of, and certainly in the year of 2020, of trying to present some sort of like solace in, you know, just like, hey, things can get better, and you can move on from this, and you can overcome this. Which not everyone always wants to hear, but sometimes that is kind of crucial. So it doesn't stick around. Definitely doesn't stick around in the grand scheme of things, but it gets its mention, and now it may go.
Okay, Barry.
I had nominated this. I thought
Last
it
of Us, yep.
Last of Us 2. Why'd they kill Joel? What's up with that? No, I thought this game was quite lovely, but I just kind of wasn't grabbed enough. When I look at the heavy hitters that are left, I don't think it remotely stands a chance. Spiritfairer was lots of really like beautiful somber writing, but not even somber in a bad way, just somber writing about the passing on to the next world. I think that whole game is a beautiful metaphor for everything that entails.
It was very charming.
It was. And how often do games deal with death in a meaningful way? Do you know what I mean? Like in an actual real world.
Well, let me tell you about this guy called Bobby. All right.
Oh. Let me tell you about a scene in The Last of Us 2 where you go to Joel's house.
I think the thing with Spiritfarer is it's more about these kind of little interconnected moments over the kind of whole story. And I didn't get to finish Spiritfarer. I unfortunately dropped off sooner than I wanted to, but I can definitely like tell from the hours that I put in that those little moments become even kind of bigger and more emotional moments. And I definitely got that feeling of treating death as not the the end destination and as this kind of sad thing, but like as just the next step on this journey, and just kind of there's a spirituality, and I don't know, like it feels like something out of like a Studio Ghibli film or something, and how they treat death. And yeah, I definitely echo those sentiments.
Okay. Next up, Jack.
Oh dear, this is getting tough here. Man. I mean,
there is no way of not annoying somebody.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to stick the knife in, I think.
It's not cutting time.
I'm gonna have to cut. I mean, I don't know if it's a coward's way out, but you guys have kind of done it in the last two previous things. Unfortunately, due to lack of support from Mark and surprisingly Barry, I'm gonna cut Tell Me Why, and I loved the story of Tell Me Why. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was something genuinely revolutionary in terms of like, you know, the portrayal of a trans character as the main character for a game, and it dealt with a lot of the bullshit associated with what that experience would be like.
I will say that there is already another game on this list that hasn't been struck off yet that does that.
Yep, I was about to echo that.
Okay, but I mean, don't shit on my game.
No, but I agree with you though, Jack, that definitely like it does do in terms of representation of. And it even, like, you know, at the start, it puts the disclaimer out.
I'm still excited to play it.
It puts the disclaimer out to say that, you know, we have, you know, worked with the right people to make sure that the representation is done you know, the right way, basically.
And it's kind of a half-finished point as well, because I think, okay, I mean, sure, I don't know too much about the other game, that section of the other game. Just I focus on the main story, but what I liked about it as well was that all of the bullshit that is involved with that is discussed and you're accepting, and then the mystery of the story, it stops becoming about that, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, this is the character. So they make a deal out of it, and then it stops being a deal, and then you realize, and I think a lot of people who are invested in Don't Nod games, if they had any, you know, not that these are the sort of people that would feel this way, but if they had any reticence about a trans character being represented, you just realize that it just becomes it's the main character of the game now, the main character of the game, and you don't even at that point really acknowledge it anymore. So I think that's pretty cool in the way that it's done. I think the mystery and the flashbacks that are told in the story without giving away too much to Dave, like I would end up, if I was really going to cut the promo, I would just basically retell the whole story, but it essentially becomes like a really haunting kind of a story about emotional repression and like a twisted memory of something that happened long in the past of the main two characters who are twins. And yeah, it's Don't Nod, man. They're really fucking good at this sort of thing, and they tell the story really well. And I don't know if I know Barry and Mark, you both kind of bounced off it and didn't finish the story, but I think it's worth finishing the story. You know, it's worth.
I'm gonna go back. I have it installed on the Xbox. I didn't actively dislike it. I am going to go back and finish. I also didn't love the first episode of Life is Strange, and I ended up loving that whole package immensely when it was done. So I am definitely going to finish it.
Yeah, and I feel like I sat here last year cutting a similar promo with Life is Strange 2, and how again they really got the social commentary spot on of like what it meant to be someone from somewhere else in America, you know, in that game, and represented that really well. And they continue to handle social issues in games so well and so practically, while still compelling stories are being told about people's relationships. And that's what is at the core of these games. It's what made Zoe, like Max, and you know, Rachel Amber and all of these characters from Life is Strange just feel so, Chloe and Max, sorry, feels so real. and this game is no different than that. But hey, that's my take.
I think one of the major issues the game has is that the voice acting it's fine, but there are moments where it's a bit wooden and it's a bit, I don't know, because I ended up just not particularly liking Tyler or Allison. Like they sounded quite whiny at points, and some of it is sure, like I think they're like early 20s maybe, but there are moments where they sound like petulant teenagers. But a lot of it comes through in I think just the voice acting just being just not. I feel the direction could have been it could have been directed better in regards to that, and I think that is a lot of what I bounced off of. Because I do think that the actual the characters and the story that's being told, though I have some issues with some of it. I think a lot of that is really put well together. I think that, you have the one old guy whose name I can't remember, who he's one of those, like, he doesn't understand, like, someone who is transgender, but with who he is as an older guy, and, he's in a new world now, he's trying his best to, accept this person for who they are, but just because he's an older guy, sometimes he may say something that he doesn't mean to be offensive or say something that is offensive or whatever, but it comes out because it's just because he's an older guy and he hasn't either learned like the correct way to address someone or whatever the case may be, and a lot of that is kind of real world stuff that you might see or hear. But I do think that the core two characters, just sometimes the voice acting, it doesn't land for me, and I think that might be where a lot of my issues stem from.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think I really like Tyler. I think the actor that played Tyler nailed it. I think he's a great character, and I don't know. I just immediately felt for him in this story, and as much as what you said about Hades, about confronting your mother to get more information and try and understand, and have this deep emotional connection. This is the opposite. It's like this traumatic experience involving your mother and what she was and what she kind of became and represented to the two of them, and then having to mash back through all of that trauma and figure it out. And then the flip reverse of it, not actually being Tyler responsible for the murder of his mother, but it being Allison, and like just when they remember that and all of those memories come flooding back, like to me, that is one of my favorite moments of the year. I didn't put it in moments of the year just again because when I saw Tell Me Why on Disappointment of the Year, I was like, I'm probably definitely not getting that over, and I felt like the last chapter of Miles was stronger. But yeah, this is a fucking great story, and it's well told. Yeah, Tell Me Why. Go play it.
Right, it's me next. This is real tough. We're down to 5 very strong contenders. And what I'm going to say at this point is, because I just don't know where the passion sits at, my inclination, the two I'm thinking of in my head are Hades and Paper Mario. And I was going to go Hades, but I don't know what the temperature in the room is like.
Honestly, of the two, I would take Paper Mario off. I think that,
okay,
like, because here's the thing, Bobby by far my moment of the year, but and it's a fun story.
Is it the story though? Yeah, that's the thing.
It's like it's a fine story. It is a Mario RPG story. It is the usual, hey, go save Princess Peach. Hey, here's the Origami King. And in fairness, they actually give a little bit more depth to a main Mario antagonist than you would ever likely expect, past just trying to get Princess Peach back. So
I think the fact, Mark, that this is a main character dealing with his own existence. You've got like existentialism at the heart of King Ollie here, like this fold of life that kind of brought him into creation, and then like his hatred of Toads ever since then, because it's kind of like, why do I exist? Why am I here? And like he feels spoiled, obviously, because like he's been written on and stuff, and it's like, what the fuck, man? I just not the Bobby moment aside, but like when I really thought about this game and the Wizard of Oz style gameplay and the existentialist kind of stuff into it, I'm like, how the hell did they sneak this through at Nintendo? It's brilliant. I again, if you want to let it go, I'm happy to let it go, but it's one of my favorites. So, Miles Morales and Paper Mario and Tell Me Why are my top 3, and they're all gone. So
I'm sorry, Jack.
I'm
sorry. I love you.
Whoops.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. I love you. My dreams have been super kicked in this category. I'm happy now to sort of bask in the glow of hearing some other people's support for other games.
Mark.
I guess
There are 2 games we both feel very strongly about on here.
yeah,
left.
I guess at this point I'm fine for Hades to come off, because quite honestly, of the 3 I've played here, I have stronger arguments to make. I do still think that just the way that they weave a story into a roguelite, it's so fucking well done, and just like Zagreus means so well, and he's so like earnest in his conviction to what he's trying to do. Yeah, Hades can come off now.
Okay.
Like even like little things, like it's like also just on the writing of it, on like the minute level. It's like the way he comments on whatever boss killed him as he came out, and like chatting to all your enemies in the bar. It's just so great. Like, it's not just, they didn't just say, let's stick a story in it because no one else has done that. The love and attention they put into it is so impressive. So impressive.
So we're down to 3. This is usually when we come to the vote. So we've kind of pretty much hit the big pieces of the Last of Us story. Barry, would you agree?
Sure, yeah.
And I think we went into it again for 2 hours
Right.
a few months ago as well. So I think it's all out there in the open how we, who would be the high men of the 4 of us on The Last of Us 2, feel. So I don't think we need to go into it for another 10 or 20 minutes.
No.
So that leaves us with 2. One we've mentioned a little bit about, and one that we haven't mentioned once yet. And because he's the man that introduced this game to me, I think, Mark, I think that the 2 of us will handle this, but I want you to lead off on If Found.
Okay, so I spoke a fair bit about this actually on the last episode that just released of Link to the Cast. But so If Found talks about a character called Casio who lives, the game takes place during the early to mid 90s in the west of Ireland.
On Achill
Island, just off of it's part of County Mayo, I presume.
Yeah.
And it's the game takes place within a diary, and basically you as Casio, I presume, you are erasing the story. Basically, you're erasing all of these memories starting from I think like the 3rd of December 1993.
It's basically the month of December the story takes place in.
Yeah.
And so you start, and I can't remember the exact first scene now, but you're talking with your mum, or the conversation's happening between the 2 of you, and there's clearly
something not being said.
And Casio's mum means well, but it's again one of those like she doesn't understand. She's from a different generation.
Yeah.
And so Casio ends up leaving, and she ends up going to live with trying to remember their names. There's Jack, Cullum, and Shans. That's the one. Yeah,
Shans.
Yeah. And they're in a band, and she lives with them, and there's a real kind of sense of community between the 4 of them.
But the band called Banshee, by
yes.
the way.
Incredible name.
And you just get little kind of thread bits, and because like for a start, like the big kind of thing, the big crux is the fact that Casio is transgender, but that isn't immediately apparent, and it's not made a big thing at any point until it's like, oh, okay, right. And you've also
I think it may be over halfway through before it's explicitly
Yeah,
stated.
there's like a few kind of moments up to that point, but nothing that is like, oh, right. And like,
It's one of those things again where if you're paying very close attention, you hear that, and maybe part of it is just kind of the work I do and working with LGBT young people that I've seen these conversations before. So I'm twigging on this is like, and this is part of why it affected me so much, is that this may as well be a fucking documentary. Like, I have heard this story so many times.
yeah.
But sorry, go on.
And you've even got like Shans, who, like, the way that she, because the graphical style of the game, it looks like diary entries. You know, it's a very kind of rough and ready art style. And you're looking at the character of Shans, and you kind of like, I can't actually tell if you are male or female. And from the most part, you kind of get the idea that it's male, but then it turns out they come out as non-binary. But you know, because of the way the graphical style is, you are kind of left guessing. But the game, for the most part, until these reveals happen, it doesn't weigh in on these things, other than the fact that they're kind of weighed in from all of the people around who just don't understand that these people just want to be who they are. And because it's, you know, the early 90s in Ireland, and they're just kind of stuck, they're lost, because they don't have anywhere they can go to. And Casio, you know, she's like 21, she has no money, she's trying to go back to Dublin to go to college, and I think she's trying to get a PhD, I think. And she's just, you really feel for this character that they just have nowhere to go. And you think about why someone at that moment in time just like, I have nothing, and you know, may in the most extreme circumstances decide to just end it all. You completely get in that moment why that kind of thing can happen. And Dave, I'll let you take over from here. But oh, man,
the emotional weight of this game is like something I have not experienced at all this year. So I played it literally last night, and I played it through to completion in one sitting. I did not put it down from the second I started. And it's about 2 to 3 hours long, depending on how, like, you know, how quick you are with the kind of, you know, figuring out the eraser and scribbling out things, this and that. And in that 3 hours, I think I had eyes full of tears maybe 3 times. It's so powerful. It's so heartbreaking. It's so, again, I have heard these kind of stories coming from young people in these situations. It's unbelievable levels of storytelling from a game I knew nothing about, and I think the way it is soundtracked and the way it looks, which we'll get into both elements later on, I think perfectly convey and represent that. I think as well, you know, independent of like what the actual story is about, I think by a country mile it is the single best representation of Irish culture and being in Ireland in the 90s specifically that has ever existed in the medium.
Oh yeah, it was like the writing of the mother is like unbelievable. It's so perfect.
And that's what I'm trying to think. There's 3 moments specifically that I was talking about that I had just eyes full of tears. There's the conversation with the mother, and anybody who's played it knows the conversation I mean, and the letters that follow it. There is the moment in the attic with Shans, and there is the kind of scene in the house alone, isolating from everybody as well, where I'm just like, I was just overcome. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something that because we've talked about it in Game of the Year multiple times, where like I play a lot of games that are real bummers, guys. They are real downers, and we talked about the nihilism of The Last of Us Part 2. So there's very little that actually visibly rattles me when I'm playing games anymore. I might feel sad internally, but it doesn't provoke like a visceral reaction like that very often. And I just, like, this game knocked me out.
If I had played If Found like earlier than a week ago, it probably would have had about 4 moments in like moments of the year, like purely on the basis I only got it to this week that I have nothing for that category. But it just story-wise, it had to go in. It had to go in at the last moment.
Yeah. It, for me, is tied with my number 1, and only for the fact of like recency bias am I not edging it ahead of Paradise Killer, because like I don't know, I still feel so fondly about Paradise Killer. I love it. We'll talk about it in a sec, maybe. But because I've just played If Found in the last 24 hours, I don't know if 3 months from now I'll still feel about it the same way I did once those kind of feelings of having just beaten it, whether they fade or not. So it's right on a par for me, but it's a powerful work. Unbelievable. So
I need to play that fucking game, by the way, guys.
Oh
great.
god,
It's really great.
Oh, it's so fucking good, and it's like a fiver.
Well, you said
as
the
well.
bit about 90s Island as well. Like, you know, I spent at least 2 or 3 weeks of my life pretty much every year of the 90s in Ireland. So I'm down.
It's unbelievable, and it has a great like hit Y to understand what this Irish reference means.
Yeah,
which
that's
is great.
great.
I'm sure that was very helpful for you, Mark.
No, but I was saying the other day that I've been here for 5 years, that for the most part I knew all of the references.
Yeah,
or the words
you would
at
have
this
known
point.
the toy show and shit like that. I'd say it would have been like, if anything, the more rural stuff that even like some townies here wouldn't understand would be the ones that might evade you.
Like
But yeah,
Bob Sheen.
yeah. But yeah, oh fuck, what a special experience that was. Paradise Killer, you know, we talked about the opening of the game being so strong and the end of the game being so strong, but like, I don't know who wants to pick me up on this, but like the writing in between the posts is incredible as well, and how it weaves this conspiracy, pulling in so many principal characters from the island. It's probably got, you know, until I played If Found, I would have said by a mile, it's got, for a game I had no expectations for, it's got unbelievably strong characterization. For a game where you're introduced to so many characters very quickly at the start, they are all so unbelievably distinct that within, I don't know, 45 minutes, you're not getting, you know them all, you know exactly everything you need to know to differentiate between them. The way it kind of layers in the elements of conspiracy and baits you with just enough to head off. Do you want to go this direction? Do you want to go that direction? And how which direction you pick first might inform what happens when you go to down route B. It is some of the, like, even if it didn't reduce me to tears like It Found it is some of the cleverest writing in a video game I've experienced in many moons. I don't know if anybody else wants to tag on to that.
I just want to say that my favorite names from the game, like the character names in this game, I mean, like the fact that the main character, Lady Lovejoy, is what a great name for a protagonist. Like, that's unforgettable. Dr. Doomjazz, who has a real aversion to shirts, with his big old pink mohawk. Fucking awesome.
In fairness, one of many characters with that aversion.
That is true. Everyone in this game looks like some sort of almost like, you know, a little bit sort of below the counter anime purchase.
That's what I was going to say. They look like they would be your favorite wacky anime side character. Every single one of them.
Carmelina Silence is a fantastic name as well.
Oh, the names in this, peerless.
Yeah. And I love the character One Last Kiss. I was just like,
yeah,
perfect. So yeah, I just wanted to.
But even your character, Lady Love Dies, is incredible.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
Sure.
Lady Love Dies is probably my favorite video game protagonist name, bar none, of the year and of many years. Yeah. So that's why I just a little thing that I thought I would throw out to shed some amusement, because we've got some heavy topics that we've been getting into in the last sort of half an hour.
Yeah. Let's hit the polls, gents. Jack.
So to me, I think it's hard for me to push If Found because I know so little about it. It's been such a recent revelation for you all, and I just genuinely haven't had the time between Mark telling me about it on Friday and us recording this on spoiler alert Tuesday for me to get to it. It's been a packed couple of days for me. I love Paradise Killer. I think it's brilliant. Last of Us 2, read story, watch story, think story is brilliantly told as well. So I think, like, if I'd played through it, if I'd had the context of the first game, if I'd actually finished that and got onto it, I probably would appreciate it more. But just based on the fact that I think telling a single story from two perspectives like they did in Last of Us is so well done. But the fact that in Paradise Killer, they weave so many characters together, so many narratives. When you're in that trial and, you're clicking on, say, Henry, and you're like, right, well, why are you accusing me of this? And then all of the little things pop up in the boxes, and, you got to speak your truth, and you pick it out, and like, oh fuck, I forgot that's something that I could accuse him of. Like, you feel like you've got a picture in your head, but then it gives you even more options, and you even remember, and you're like, fuck. And it's so intricate and brilliant that I just think more than anything else, and in recent years, Paradise Killer is a technical storytelling achievement. So for me, Paradise Killer.
Yeah. I am also, because like I said, I think you're tossing up two different types of story told probably equally well, and I'm a little bit afraid of recency bias. So I'm going to go with the game I've been championing since I started it, and I'm going to vote Paradise Killer as well. Mark.
I think my thing with Paradise Killer is more it's the characterization that really sings to me. But I think just from bell to bell, like, If Found is flawless in the story it tells. So even with maybe recency bias, I'm going If Found.
Barry.
Oh, I'm going Last of Us 2. I'm shocked. I'm on an island with Last of Us 2. Oh my god! I think, I don't think it should win on the basis of having the most story of these options.
It does certainly have the most story,
but because I think you can try and do a million things, and that can be a fucking mess, and then it's shit. What I love about Last of Us 2 is it's doing so much, but it's doing it all so well. Like, we talked about the moment of the year, and you and I, Dave, talked in that podcast about the balls of Naughty Dog. I don't think that just comes down to the whole Metal Gear Solid 2 thing, switching with Abby. I think it comes to so many different facets of the game, to really tearing down the Ellie character, and like giving her this arc where, it's not just a case of she's at her worst, in the middle of the story, and then she has to redeem herself. Like, they really push that to incredible levels with where they take that character. There's so much going on, there's so many characters, and I think they all interweave wonderfully. I think it's a incredible achievement in storytelling. And also I would weave in as well the performances and the so many different things that make a story great. So I'm sad it couldn't win, but I'll give it a ceremonial vote anyway.
I think on the whole, it's our strongest ever year for best story.
Oh yeah.
There was one year where we had so few. I think it was the Red Dead Redemption year where we had so few nominees. We had talked internally about discontinuing it as a category. And I'm thankful we stuck with it, because this was a whopper year, so I'm very happy with it. And I'm also delighted to announce that our best story for 2020 goes to Paradise Killer.
I just love the fact that one of my favourite stories of the year didn't even make it into the 10. Like, that's how good of a year it was.
Yeah.
Like, I would stand on the table for that in that year that Red Dead Redemption won, and I love Red Dead, so... Wow.
I am, as much as I loved it, I'm legitimately shocked Paradise won. That's actually caught me off guard.
I'm so happy. It was my number one, and it like, I would not have hesitated for a second if it hadn't been for If Found, and that just goes to show the strength of If Found, that I doubted myself for a moment in where I cast my vote. Play that fucking game, kids.
Absolutely,
that's all I can say.
It's phenomenal. I'm glad Mark gave it a hard sell in the run up to this, and it is wonderful. It is really wonderful.
The fan poll for best story, we have redemption for one of our panel, because with 44.4% of the vote, The Last of Us Part 2 is the people's choice.
Thank you, people. You get it. We're all on the right side of history on this.
You bunch of nihilistic bastards.
For about 2 seconds, I worked myself into a shoot. I was like, is he going to say, tell me why?
Oh, now that would have been incredible.
That's when Dave's like, Jack, you entered all these yourself, and I'm like, yeah, I did.
Let's all now go and listen to the Holy Bible and wallow in the misery.
Hades was second place with 33.3% of the vote, and Paradise Killer was third with 11.1%.
Wait, me in the audience, that's 2 votes. That's a deadlock. Back to the debate we go.
Back in the hole, lads.